you were saying that there's something going on in America where they're trying to get rid of certain coloring and certain things in children's cereal. What was that?
Yeah, well, it's just that thing that, you got all these colors and dyes and chemicals and so on. They're in Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops and probably Fruity Pebbles and all that stuff there. And Trix, for a fact they're in Trix. There's no way they're not in those ones. But even as a kid, I disliked Trix, but mainly just because the commercials made me angry. I just was like, fuck that. They're such a shit to that rabbit, those kids. They're just like, fuck you, man. Tricks are for kids. How about you go and die, you dirty white rabbit?
Got to make it racial now, don't we?
He's like, hey, it's not my fault I'm a white rabbit.
I didn't ask to be born this way,
Yeah, well, guess what? You're still not getting no fucking Tricks. That's for kids. Kids are only kids who don't have fucking jobs.
So they're going and they're actually it doesn't surprise me. They're trying to make things more healthy and get rid of things where they don't need it. But it's kind of funny you say that because, going to the States, there is you go to the cereal aisle and there's a long line of just whole aisle of cereal. I'm sure most of our listeners probably know, but over here in the Netherlands, it's a small little corner. It's a very small little corner. And even the children's cereal here, it's basically this would be the healthy alternative in America. You know what I mean? This is what they would consider there's something
like Panda Puffs and koala snacks and those ones.
Well, some of it's kind of the same. Some of it's kind of how do I put it? Some of it's kind of it'll be the same brand name, but it obviously looks different. And you come buy something like Fruit Loops, it's not as colorful. It's orange, purple, and lighter purple. It's not all these crazy, wacky fucking colors. I think the one thing that is the same is Frosted Flakes, but they're just called. It's so British because I know it just sounds like they just took the British the British box of it and brought it over here. It's called Frosties. Oi, would you like some
Frosties?
Kellogg's Frosties? Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that's just the thing that they just been talking about a bunch recently is just the whole because in Canada and in Europe and all these places, you can buy those cereals, but they don't have those bright neon colored radiating colors and whatnot like that.
And unicorn jizz
and it literally comes all out of the same factory. Apparently, they're like, well, there's Canadian blend over there. There's the U.S. Freedom blend.
Is it just one of those colors where they kill some rare bug in South America in order to get this color, wiping out a whole species of bug just because this is the only way we get this dye?
Well, I remember that was on the Edumacation. I think it was some red beetles where they got that red color from for Skittles and M&Ms and so on like that.
Just to think about that, does it actually add any flavor or nutrition? No, it's just a color, but it's got a fucking dye for it.
Yeah, but I think it's all that stuff is Red 5 and where they all just sound like fucking X-Wing names. Yellow 6. Yeah, can I get a little extra Yellow 6 on that for me? You know what I mean? This Mountain Dew is just missing something.
Yeah. Give enough time. You could get those. You go to those special dispensary machines. Oh look, this special Coke machine. You could add in lime or vanilla to your Coke, and then eventually it just says, "You want to add yellow product? Would you like to add purple 8 to it?"
You mentioned those machines, and I feel I just gotta mention this to you. This is that one. You tell this to some people, and they go, "Who the fuck cares?" What? But recently, in the last couple of years in the U.S., I've noticed that Coke is losing out completely. You'll go to all the restaurants that used to have a Coke product or something like that, or they'd have that 101 choices, that you could put into your drink and whatnot. And they've all switched to Pepsi. And it's always you go in there, you think you're going to get yourself a Mr. Pibb, because every once in a while you want a Mr. Pibb or you want something a little bit different and so on like that. You're it's that thing. It's if once a blue moon, I like to have a soda. I'm not going to have it very often, but when I do, I want to have a good soda. And then you go in, you're like, what the fuck is this? Pepsi machine? You guys cheap it out in here? It was when the movie theater did that. And I was like, how am I supposed to enjoy my free drink? Because, every once in a while I accumulate enough points. No, I don't want that upgraded. I'm not... I want the free version. I want to really enjoy my loyalty of showing up here every day. And now you're telling me I can't get a cherry Coke.
I'm just imagining, this sounds like an old man in a walker, like pointing at them, like, listen here, God damn it. I remember the first movie I got when I got this goddamn card. It was Underworld 2, okay?
Yeah, and I don't want none of that PepsiCo here at the office. I want good old-fashioned American Coca-Cola. You know, let's be honest.
It's granted, it's been, no longer, they sold it. They no longer have it anymore. But my family, when they had their restaurant, they originally had Coke and they switched over to Pepsi. And I want to say it was because Pepsi is just a lot cheaper. Like, yeah, Coke is like, yo, you're paying for the fucking brand. Come on, it's Coke. Come on, you know. And yeah, they kind of wouldn't really give a whole lot of leeway to anything. They're kind of a little bit more like, hey man, it's a fucking privilege. Come on now, you know. So it's kind of like, you know. And I guess if you've been working with them for like over 20 years, eventually you're like, yeah, fuck this, you know. I think it was something kind of like that. So.
Yeah, no, I know why, and I get it. Like, you know, if you
especially when everyone wants healthier alternatives too.
Yeah,
Pepsi's a healthy alternative, but
no, Pepsi I think is definitely the probably the worst one if you really think about it. It's probably got a little bit more sugar and everything, a little bit more, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I like a good Mountain Dew once in a while. I literally had a Mountain Dew last night. It was like last night I had like some time to kill and like sitting down playing some video games. I'm like, I want the old school experience. I'm gonna crack a Mountain Dew open, play some fucking Tomb Raider. just get fucking loaded tonight.
Put on even flow.
Yeah, you know, every once in a while you need that little bit of an experience and so on. But
I can tell you, probably I haven't done it in a long time. It was actually back in Guerneville. It was the one time I got kind of weirdly emotional out of nowhere. It was because I took an edible, and it was right when the Mario 64 collection came out. It was a couple things. It was coming up close to my wedding. Well, no, it was a couple of things all at once. It was like 2 weeks or something like that from my wedding. So things like, wow, life is happening and changing so fast. And then that night I had an edible and I had the house to myself or something. My wife was out of town. And I put on, it was just kind of like, ladies out of town, I'm pulling out my Switch and I'm putting on Toy Story on Disney Plus. I don't know why, just those things connected. I was playing Mario 64 on my Switch with Toy Story, and then immediately like that kind of like Ratatouille like flashback to when he bites the thing and he's like back as a kid. And I just like, oh, I'm gonna die one day, you know. It's been so long because like I remember when I got Mario 64, Toy Story was probably my favorite movie at the time, you know. So it was just all this shit at once, like, oh my god, like I didn't actually full on cry, but I was getting emotional. Like, oh, it was especially at the part when like, because everyone talks with the Randy Newman song, like "You got a dick in me," whatever, you know. There's the other ones he has where he's like, there's the song that I don't think people really refer to or talk about enough. There's the part when like Buzz Lightyear is like realizes he's a toy, and then he's like, "No, I think I am real." And there's like some Randy Newman song playing, like, "Oh yeah, I'm sad, but I can fly," you know. And he gets the wings out, then he jumps and he falls and he like breaks his arm. He just lays there, pans up, just like, "I fly no more." So with all that happening at the same time, I was like, because when you're a kid, you're like, okay, it's kind of sad, it's kind of linger. Who's this old fuck singing over the movie? But then as an adult, like, oh, this is the first time. This is that Pixar magic you're talking about. But this part, it's fucking real. I don't know, just that scene hits so much harder as an adult.
Yeah, because you just realize you're like, you know what? Maybe I'm not what I think I am. You know, when I tried flying one more time too many, and now here I am laying here. And then you almost kind of understand the depression of like Buzz after that point, where it's just like, fuck it, what's the point? I'm not real. Life's never gonna be as good as I imagine it's gonna be. You know, I'm always gonna be second best. Just
I understood the concept.
Strap me up to that missile right now. Just shoot me up. Just shoot me up. I don't care. Let me just be some kid's like, you know, jerk off moment in life where he's blowing shit up in the backyard with no pants on.
You know what? Sid probably, like, in all honesty, Sid, like, how fucked up that kid was. All the toys that blew up, those are the ones that got off easy. There's a lot of shit we didn't say. They were only in that house for like one day. There's got to be a couple like dolls with like, you know, dick holes in their eye socket, you know, like that's got to be a couple of them.
Yeah, because that's the worst toy POW camp you can be in. Yeah, a lot of them are looking forward to when they blow up. That is now the pain's finally over.
I do think it's crazy though, the idea that they finally turn, like the idea in concept is in the movie you're watching as a kid, like, yeah, okay, it's funny. They turned on Sid and scared him, whatever. But the idea of like everything finally happened. They just said, you know what? Fuck it. And they wouldn't lie on the kid. They had every right to like murder that kid. They have every right
just
to
start pulling him apart slowly.
Like, you know, like child's play. They had every right. But for every Sid, imagine the ones where it didn't happen, where you had like a toy that was a little more unhinged, and the toy just like looms over the kid with like a pair of scissors at night, like every night, just like thinking about it, you know, like, oh yeah, you sold me out for the Pikachu, huh? That's what you fucking, you know.
Exactly. It's just like one of those ones, you know, there was just waiting for that breaking point. But yeah,
that just kind of got me thinking. Like, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like, I'll just say this real quick. It's kind of like I watched Inside Out 2 a little bit ago on Disney Plus, and
I don't even know if I saw Inside Out 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Inside Out 1's pretty good. I'll say it's pretty good. Inside Out 2, it's one of those movies it's good. It's good, but the first one kind of it's more emotional, has more, you know, it's more fitting. Anyway, but you know the concept. It's like we see all the emotions,
colors and emotions, or colors.
It's like all the emotions are inside, kind of reacting and kind of like trying to help control. And it's more of like it's really they really did their research on, like, you know, emotions and kind of like how the mind works and all that kind of stuff, and suppressing emotions, what this is, what that is. And you know, you're just kind of watching these like colorful, fancy characters. Like, okay, this character's joy, this character's disgust, this character's fear, this one's sadness, whatever. You see silly, wacky characters in like reacting until in this girl's mind as she's going through puberty and trying to fit in. It's just like, oh, it's so funny. And then I'm just imagining, like, what about the version of like someone's in a POW camp and we see those reactions, like like when real shit happens, like Joy's just in the back corner, like, Joy, stay the fuck out of this. There's no need for you. Anger and panic and disgust are the only ones that need to be here. All right, get the fuck out of here. You know, I'm just imagining just like all those characters in like a serious situation. I don't know. Just, I guess I'm not the only one that saw the movie. I guess not where much we can go with that for conversation wise, but
like Inside Out of the Deer Hunter,
something like that. Yeah, like some Deer Hunter shit. Just seeing these like what was Robert De Niro's characters in Deer Hunter when he's playing like Russian roulette, like no, don't push that button, move aside, fear. There's only one way to find out. You know, clicks the trigger.
Speaking of Deer Hunter, it's actually kind of funny because I did this podcast last episode with buddy Dave, who I know we always talked about getting him together. He's one of those guys I worked with at Comcast back in the day, and just you know how things kind of go. But I finally got him. He's like, let's watch Meet the Feebles. I'm like, well, shit, I've never actually seen that movie, so I'll be down to check it out. And it's just that Peter Jackson where it's all puppets. But there's literally a Deer Hunter homage because there's like this like frog who's kind of like the Kermit the Frog character, but he's like, you know, he's just a heroin addict and everything like that. And so there's this scene where he's like literally like, shooting up heroin, like tied up in the bathroom and whatnot. But he tells like the dude, he's got a story, and he's all like, He's like, yeah, well, you know, I was in hell. And the other guy just looks at me, he's like, oh, so you were in Vietnam. He just goes on this whole like Vietnam tirade of when he was back there. And then it starts literally going like Deer Hunter at some point where he's got like a headband on playing Russian roulette. But it's puppet, so it makes it just that much more funny.
I feel like there's a point like in like, I don't know when it was, like Deer Hunter had this weird little kind of like momentary comeback where I feel like I saw a lot of Deer Hunter references like in 2012 through 2014, like a lot.
It's because we brought it back.
I'm not sure.
It was the Wallaby the Rabbit. Like.
Well, we had it, yeah, but I feel like we were part of it, but like it was also, I just started seeing it everywhere. Like I started seeing like homages where someone was wearing a headband and playing Russian roulette, you know? So
I think it's an Archer episode where that happens, if I'm not mistaken.
Archer,
Yeah.
something else, probably something on something else on Adult Swim, probably.
Well, because it felt like Deer Hunter was kind of one of those movies. I know it was big in the 70s, and it sort of felt like it got kind of like forgotten. It was like, oh yeah, there, here's this other kind of, Vietnam movie that, it used to be like a high level one. Now it's probably like on like a top 11 list now or something like that. And then it kind of came back again.
Yeah. I think it just happens sometimes. It's like movie. Well, I'll be honest. I feel like you'll probably relate to me on this too. I feel like there's this point, like say around like, and I'm not saying it's like our generation is better or anything like that, but I feel like there's this point like in like 2010, around there, somewhere in the 2010s, give or take, where that was like things were still cool to be retro and all that, and things could still be cool to be retro, but certain things like it would be common to like, it was cool, or we're doing a throwback to a 70s movie or something like that, and that's cool. And you can still find movies that homage and kind of reference old stuff and pull inspiration. But I feel like recently, and like since everyone's got a streaming service and all that, I feel like it's almost harder to find classic things now. Like you'd be lucky to find a lot of big movies from like the early 80s and back, like I feel like, I mean, I'm sure like there's the big ones like Jaws or Star Wars, whatever, you'll find those anywhere. But I mean, I feel like something like Deer Hunter, I haven't gone looking for Deer Hunter, but something like Deer Hunter or something like Once Upon a Time in the West or something like if it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie, but not one of his bigger ones, I feel like those don't always pop up because it just takes up room on a server and they don't want to pay the rights for it or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of why the two best platforms I kind of generally like gravitate towards is Amazon Prime and YouTube, because they're the ones that mostly cater to like the older movies. And if you can't find it somewhere, there's mostly somebody who's uploaded on YouTube, and at least no one's really bothering them anymore about it. So it kind of like at least lets that kind of history and legacy last. And people are pretty good about doing decent copies nowadays. It used to be back in the day, you turn it on like, okay, here's a 240p version of this movie, but it's the only place I can find it. I don't want to pay $25 for the used DVD, so on. But now it's like, okay, cool. People are mostly uploading like they've taken a good copy of the movie and they've upscaled it and yada yada yada, and they did the right parameters and it looks good.
I mean, I feel like maybe over here it's just kind of a thing with a lot of rights. Like I feel like right now, I mean, there's a lot of big older movies you can still find like on Amazon, but I guess over here, a lot of movie companies or copyrights don't feel the need to put down money to have it over here. So it feels like, why the fuck can I find? Why is the Wild Bunch the only Sam Peckinpah movie I can find? Why can't I watch True Romance? Why can't I watch? There's like these big movies that are like known, but they're not on any particular streaming service and they're not available to rent. You know what I mean? Just because they're in some kind of copyright vault. I guess it just gets irritating because you see how many streaming services we have, but I feel like they just keep on wanting to push. I like a lot of new shit, but they keep wanting to just push all the new shit on us and forget about the old shit,
Well, that's kind of why I have a hard time with things like Netflix and even Hulu and so on like that. Not saying you can't find stuff on there, but like they push the new, like even like a Netflix, for example, like you go on there now, and it's like, good luck finding a movie before the 80s. It's like almost impossible. And even 80s movies are quite rare on there. It seems like it's 2000s and up. And then they sprinkle in just a few classics just to appease those old people, I guess. But so it's like, well, I guess see you guys later. I know where I need to be. I need to be where the old man Orange hangs out, where there's 1960s and 70s movies that and even 80s and 90s, I'll take that too.
Well, it's not even so much like I need nothing but retro films, but it's like I feel like there's a point where, I don't know, I feel like there's a point where I could find more like of a, what's the word I'm looking for here? More variety. I feel like there's a point when streaming was just coming out, there was this point of like, what is the point of owning DVDs and Blu-rays? You can get it anywhere now. And now it's like, oh wait, no you can't. They don't want to put this on streaming anymore, or it gets flipped between this or that. Now it's like kind of like, oh, maybe treat Blu-rays almost kind of like vinyl. Like don't get all of them, but just the ones you really want. Something kind of like that, just because it's like, there's so many things that are just in like this weird limbo right now that you can't watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I still buy a handful of movies every single month on physical copies. You know, a lot of times I do end up watching a lot of my digital copies. A lot of times I'll buy a movie and they'll put the digital code in and watch it. And they'll mainly, like, sounds kind of weird, but just what I always like is sometimes I can watch it during like lunch. I can pull it up on my phone, continue watching it, and then go back home and start right back off where I left it off at again, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I like to just have them generally, you know, and just you know, yeah, I try to do that thing every once in a while because before I would just buy like almost everything. And sometimes I go, okay, well, first look, see if the movie is actually on there. Because if it's on Amazon Prime or something like that, no reason to spend an extra $15. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know, savor that for the movie you really can't find somewhere else. You know. And sometimes there's some movies that's just like you can't even find them on anything. Like there was one movie that just sounds weird. It's a really old school movie that probably doesn't appeal to most people, but I've always wanted to see it. And it's called "Don't Make Waves" from the '60s, like '67, I think is what it is. Mm-hmm. And main thing is it had Dave Draper, like who was one of the Mr. Universes back in the day, and he was kind of like one of the first big guys to be like, oh, he's in a regular movie. It's not like a Hercules movie or something like that. He's just in a normal comedy, you know, modern day film, and it, you know, kind of focused on a little bit of bodybuilding and whatnot. It had Tony Curtis in it, and Tony Curtis was just a total douchebag to like Dave Draper, not intentionally, but like just one of those like old school ones. Like, hey, I'm sorry, Dave, you're just a big guy, you know. I banged your girlfriend, you know. Yeah, you know.
Here's the big guy. You see, I got this thing. I see a big guy, and I'm like, I gotta fuck his girlfriend, because he's a big guy, and if I can fuck a big guy's girlfriend, then I feel like I've won. That's just a win for me, you know.
Well, and his girlfriend was Sharon Tate, so.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, it's like a double whammy, and you know, so it had one of those kind of moments in and whatnot, and it was just you felt so bad. I'm like, it's one of those ones. This part where Dave Draper's like crying, he's in like the fucking rain and so on like that. He's like, you know what, man, it's okay. You just have her. I'm just gonna travel to another beach. It's gonna be fine. It's just like, oh, this poor guy. He's like, yeah. You know, the worst part too is because like
Tony totally cucked by.
Is Tony Curtis at first was kind of being the thing is like, hey man, I'm gonna help you out. It's gonna be great and everything like that. Where you know, get you a job and everything. I know you're kind of this traveling gypsy hippie thing with like you know your workouts, you know, and your girlfriend's into I don't know some kind of fitness or something like that. She was on a trampoline in an earlier scene in this movie.
Of course she was. Yeah. Googling yeah. Tony Curtis. I forget who Tony Curtis is. Give me a second. I just gotta put a picture.
Oh, you'll know him when you see it.
Tony Curtis.
Yeah, it's like Tony Curtis. This movie starts off. It's just like every bad thing that could kind of happen to a guy sort of happens, and then he just pretty much comes flat broke. Like this one girl, like literally, like jacks up his car and then rolls it down like a hill. And
looks kind of like Ray Liotta. Yeah,
he actually looks just like Ray Liotta, and he's like tanned as all can be in that movie. It's like one of those ones. Then you gotta forget how tanned people were back in the day.
Just a piece of jerky walking along the beach, just fucking anything he sees.
It's like, you know, Dave Draper, he's Mr. Universe, so you know why he's tanned. But like, yeah, Tony Curtis is like, he is like ridiculously tanned in this movie. I know it's a beach movie, so I mean, I guess there's something to be said there. But
just the idea of Mr. Universe, just this big fucking buff guy getting cucked by Tony Curtis and just being like, you go ahead and take her, man. It's okay. Like, all right, you go do what you gotta do. I'll be fucking Sharon Tate. Don't mind me. Get back on the trampoline, honey.
Yeah, there's just like a scene where Sharon Tate's just like watching TV in the middle of the night, just cranked up loud, and she's eating like a giant bag of potato chips. They're 60s potato chips. They haven't put all the junk in there yet, I guess.
They're healthy then, yeah.
That's post-war potato chips, you know what I mean? Embedded with freedom. Yeah.
God, I'm just like Jesus.
But yeah, but that was a perfect example. That's one of those movies that I looked for like years. I'm like, I always want to see this one. I know that's always existed. And it's one of those ones where I'm like, I'm not paying like $15 for like a digital copy or something like that. I'm like, fuck it, I'll just buy. I got the DVD for I think $12. I'm like, yeah, there we go. And it's it's one of those Warner Brothers ones, so it's like no bells and whistles. We just slap this together. Here's a cup, take it or fucking leave it.
I will say, when I was in my big DVD pawn shop collecting phase, buying a lot of stuff, I feel like I remember names and directors a lot more. I'm like, oh yeah, this 70s director did this, and that. I mean, there's the big ones, but then there's the ones you just like, oh yeah, this guy, he directed like these 7 miscellaneous movies or whatever. But now I'm just thinking back, like, just like, hey, I'm looking for this weird. I'm not looking for this weird, obscure, like grindhouse movie that like it was put out by Trauma or something. No. I'm looking for this 60s drama about a dude on a beach starring Mr. Universe and Sharon Tate, and the dude can't get laid.
Yeah, like one of those old-fashioned sort of sex comedies. It was more of a comedy, I guess. It had drama
More of a sex
elements.
comedy? Okay.
Yeah, it's more of like a '60s beach kind of like like a
beach
comedy.
party kind of thing.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, it's got a bit of that, but not maybe as campy as like some of those surf rock. Well, no, I take that back. It's got the birds fucking playing music in the movie. Yeah, there's literally a scene where they're all playing on the beach and everything like
Are
that.
they in the background?
Dave Draper's fucking like pumping iron on Muscle Beach and whatnot. It's like that thing that like whenever I see Muscle Beach, I gotta stop looking at Muscle Beach in the '60s. I'm like, man, that looks so cool. And then you go down there and you're like, man, it looks fucking terrible in 2000s. In 2020s especially, it's just like sad. It's like fucking like you feel like a Bruce Springsteen song's playing over the top now.
It's like broken glass. There's like a dead manatee on the side of the ocean.
There's always some guys trying to sell you their fucking brand new fucking Rastafarian album there. Like you're like, hey man, I bet it's great, but I don't need your burnt CD. I know it's. I love to support it. Is it on Spotify? Is it on Spotify? I'll take a look at it in 2 seconds if it's on Spotify.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Well, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
no, when you get people
the
like
2000s is calling.
they hand you a CD and then they're like, hey man, $5-10. I'm like, you take the shit back then, dude. It's Spotify. Get the fucking with it. Even in like 2014, like come on, man, you got fucking Spotify. Give it the fucking times already.
Yeah, I hate to sort of say it, like, yeah, pass it out. Like, let's be honest, like, I have a car that could play a CD in it, but I know that 99% of people don't have a car that old.
But like, I think of like, what was the other movie? Like, so it's like I'm just imagining the birds back there because like when I think of the birds, like I guess I can imagine that doing that kind of like '60s rock type shit. But I think like beach rock. But I think of them as more of kind of like poppier Bob Dylan. And I think they're actually Bob Dylan's favorite band that would cover his songs. I think that they were his favorite, or one of his favorites at least. So I'm just imagining them being like, turn,
Yeah.
That, or that song, My Back Pages, where just like talking about like, I mean, I know the lyrics, I can't think off the top of my head, but basically like the ones, some like radical, like for what it would have been like back then, like this is some communist shit, but they're talking about like the teachers that brainwash you into becoming a stooge, some like lyrics kind of like that shit playing at a like a '60s beach party and being like, what, communist? And they all get fucking attacked.
Well, the other thing I always see, I always picture Eric Clapton in that because like the way that the birds sound is one thing, and then he's like,
Yardbirds
he sees like
the birds.
Oh no. I think it was the Yardbirds actually. And,
Yardbirds make more sense. Okay. Yeah,
okay. Yeah. I think it wasn't the birds. It was the Yardbirds in that movie. It's been a moment since I watched. Them birds all phase together and so on like that.
Oh, I wonder.
Now I'm probably wrong. Now I'm probably like now that you say this, I'm almost thinking I don't know. Was it the birds? Was it the Yardbirds? It was one of the birds. Somebody was a bird.
Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton. I'm just imagining like that would be like, I feel like they cross by each other like in a fucking in an airport. They just stop across like, long time no see, Yardbirds. Hello, birds. Like just this weird tension. Just like these motherfuckers try to steal our name. These guys just added a first word to their name of that fucking band. Fuck these guys, Like, I'm just imagining like some like Anchorman like fight happening between the birds and Yardbirds whenever they pass by each other on tour. I don't know.
It's probably like the Who and the Guess Who. I feel like that's probably the same thing there.
Very much. I'm pro Who in that one.
I have too. Fucking yeah, England all the way.
I'll be honest, I like Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, but if it comes down to birds or Yardbirds, I gotta go with the birds.
Yeah, I always picture there's that part too. I think that's when Eric Clapton was in there, but he's like, yeah, I saw Jimi Hendrix, and I had to like re-fucking think my life. He's like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, is this guitar playing? Like one of those ones like that guy's up there like, we need a new thing. Cream it up. Get those afros going. No fucking way. Throw the beach out. No more.
We're never touching sand ever again. Quickly, what's this shit? LSD? Let's see what it's about. All right.
What do? Did you put it in a drink? No. Did you stick up your butt? Well, you could.
could.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
You tell me
Any
you
which
tried.
way.
Well, yeah. So okay, I don't care. Whatever you gotta do, shoot me up.
It's the 70s. It's not gay. Yeah.
But I just feel like that. It's like that's what happens. He was playing in the Yardbirds, and then it was like, wait, hold the fucking phone. There is no way we can continue this on anymore.
There's got to be that point of like, well, you look back. I want to say like Iggy Pop's first band before they were in the Stooges. They were in some kind of like, I don't remember what they were, but they were some kind of like Yardbirds-esque band where they're dudes in suits and like, Beatles cuts going like looking like they're like posing for their graduation photo, So
I think
like,
Lemmy from Motorhead did that exact same thing too.
And then just like after like a few shows, they're like, yo, fuck this. What are we gonna do? I'm gonna wear like silver leather pants and a dog collar and maybe start breaking glass on my chest. Like, okay, if you think whatever works.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I gotta change this fucking up. They
won't confuse us with the Birds or the Yardbirds if we do that shit.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton didn't do that shit. No, Eric Clapton's getting an afro and doing LSD now. Fuck, he's on to us. All right, gotta step this shit up. None of us bathe ever again.
Yeah, exactly.
Start fights with people in the front row.
In glass only.
Start fights with people in the front row. Blow someone if you have to. I don't know. Like, what? Yeah, I guarantee you no one of the Birds blew someone just for the fuck of it,
I like also they always refer to, well, you know what the Birds didn't do? I'll tell you what.
It's just a thing. Well, don't get me wrong, I like the Birds, but I think I feel like if you think of like a 60s kind of like band, like something like the Birds or the Yardbirds comes to mind of just nice boys in suits in like bowl cuts, even though the Birds were a little more, like I said, kind of Bob Dylan-ish. They just had that, you know what, you could introduce your mom to these boys. You know what I mean? You could invite them over to Thanksgiving.
Not your dad, though. Not your dad. He's going to be so pissed if he sees these guys.
He's going to look at them. He's going to be like, he's like, just smell like, I don't know when. It wasn't recent, but it was within your life. You touched a marijuana cigarette. I know you did. Some point in your life, you did.
That ain't Hank Williams Sr.
I'm just...
Yeah, we were calling him Senior even before he had a boy.
Because that's a man, goddammit.
Yeah, you salute him, damn it.
I didn't see it, but apparently the guy that played Loki played him in a movie.
Really? That actually Hank Williams Sr.?
Yeah.
Gosh, you got the three Hanks,
I don't give a shit about the second one. I know I've said that every time Hank comes up, but, don't
like
give
Hank
a shit
Williams
about...
Jr.? What about Hank the Third?
I like what I've heard. I know he's metal.
Yeah, I always liked Hank the Third's music. I actually did get it, in hindsight, I didn't realize at the time, but I did actually go see him in concert because he played bass with Phil Anselmo at Superjoint Ritual at the time when I saw him at Ozfest. I was like, oh, so he was there. I had no idea.
Yeah, I like what I've heard of him. I just don't really give a shit for a lot of... There's some of that, like, poppy country shit from, like, the 70s I like. Like, I like Kenny Rogers,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, I'm not too picky when it comes to a lot of 70s country. I don't like Hank Jr. I don't know, just whatever to me. I feel like he leads into that stadium country type shit,
Yeah, maybe he is the forerunner of that. He's not like a Waylon or a Willie or a Johnny Cash. I couldn't
really tell you like one of his big songs off the top of my head, but I feel like what I heard and what I think of, he's like, I can tell you who came out first, who did big, but I feel like that kind of like, just that, this is just redneck pop, just that kind of shit.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is it's a Family Tradition song. Yeah,
Which one is that?
I'm trying to think how.
Family Tradition.
I've heard a bunch of times because it's like you'd play it at DJing for like it was like if you had a country wedding, guaranteed that song's gonna come up somewhere, and if not, you put it in there and it works anyways, But yeah, no, it is kind of one of those ones. Or speaking of which, poor Chris Christopherson passed away. I mean, he was like 88, so you can't really complain. But
Chris Christopherson. Who's that again?
Okay, he's he's like mixed match of like an actor. He did country music. He played up those guys and so on like that. He's in Convoy, the speaking of Wild Bunch, Sam Peckinpah movies. He's in that one.
Oh yeah.
He's in the original A Star Is Born. He's that guy.
Oh, okay. He just passed away?
Yeah, he just passed.
If he was in the Wild Bunch, I would assume he would have died a long time ago. Not to be a dick, but
yeah, well, I don't think he's in the Wild Bunch. I just said Sam Peckinpah because that's who directed Convoy.
Oh, okay. Chris,
you'll know him. He's got a beard. He's God. There was another movie the movie wasn't that great, but it was like him and Burt Reynolds, and they were good. But the rest of the movie,
this dude, I've definitely seen this dude.
Yeah, Semi-Pro. That was the other one that I watched not too long or a couple years ago that had it was Chris Christopherson and Burt Reynolds. I thought we were, that was going to be a great film. And
not Semi-Pro, the Will Ferrell, Woody Harrelson movie, not that Semi-Pro.
No. Maybe this wasn't even called Semi-Pro. I don't know. It was about football, but the football was barely in. It was like, well, like those kind of movies where like they have something in it, like kind of like that Leatherheads one or whatever, where it's like, oh, it's gonna be about old timey football, and then you realize like, no, that's like 10 minutes of the movie. The rest of it's all this other like relationship drama crap. And you're like, what the fuck? That's not what you led me into here. I wanted to see some old timey football action.
I feel like sometimes they do like some of those old timey, like they were the underdogs back in 1932, and then it just kind of like, why so fucking soon with this movie? Sometimes you just kind of feel that way. There's the Boys in the Boat movie. Like, boys in a boat, and we got to, like, row faster than some dirty fucking Germans. Like, okay, all right,
Yeah, the world's most... That is, like, 2 steps away from watching, like, the curling movie, in a sense. You know what I mean? And I bet you the curling movie would be much more exciting.
It's one of those things, like, don't get me wrong. I'm sure those guys poured, like, blood, sweat, and tears to beat the Germans. But, I mean... if we want to brag about beating the Germans, we can just watch a World War II movie. I'm just saying.
We can just watch Jesse Owens on repeat. Just running on repeat. Then, like, Adolf Hitler's face, like, rah, rah, rah. He's like, damn it, why did I take so much meth beforehand?
They're just going. I like to imagine it was probably. I know it wasn't this. I know because I know he was on meth or whatever. But it'd be funny if it was just like the way they do it now. Like it's on tin foil. He's just lighting it like in his viewing box. He just goes all like he's looking down there and he's just like Donald ducking like.
You know what? Speaking of like these weird sports movies, okay, picture a curling movie, but give it the Wolf of Wall Street kind of story vibe, like that kind of feel. So it's like a ridiculous comedy, but it's like sort of based on a real life thing, but we're just going to turn it to like 11. I guess that's like taking Cool Runnings and then just cranking that up. But
even though it's not based on a true story, I guess it's also kind of like Any Given Sunday.
Oh yeah. That's the Oliver Stone one, right?
Yeah.
I feel like whenever you meet football fans, they either have there's such a mixed either they love that movie or they go the fucking movie is such fucking shit. Fucking Oliver Stone.
Here's the thing with that movie. I have no problem with what the movie says. I do think Oliver Stone is being a little. My problems aren't with what it says. My problems are with like as they're talking, things are overlapping, and it's like showing like bullfighters and Roman soldiers as they're talking about the glory of football and what these men have poured their lives into. And then at some point, Al Pacino's like giving like a PR conference, like, I'd like to thank Billy Williams or whatever. I can't remember, trying to blank on his name. Big, huge actor. He's fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of those movies I've only seen once, so it's like I'm trying to have it come back to me now.
What's his? Jamie Foxx. Can't play Drew. Yeah, Jamie Foxx.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'd like to thank Jamie Foxx's character for helping me come this far. He's talking about Jamie Foxx, the character we saw like in the last scene, like 2 minutes ago. It's showing him like overlaid in the shot as he's talking about him. Like, we know who he's fucking talking about. It's a 2.5 hour fucking movie. He said his name 800 times, and he had a rap song like I think it was Billy Beeman. He keeps the woman creaming or something kind of like that shit. Like,
feel like I need to go back and give that one a go. I have it on that like Oliver Stone like box set. I think it's actually almost behind me over there somewhere. But
sometimes you get those box sets where it's not every movie, but it's just a weird assortment of random movies. Where it's like, okay, that's a these two make sense. Like you threw me a curveball with this one right here, though. Like
well, this Oliver Stone one's one of those ones where it was like it's literally Oliver Stone from like day one to like 2000. I think Alexander, because that was like when it came out. So that's like the last one.
So the hand to Alexander.
Yeah, like literally something like that. So it's actually a pretty. I think it's one of those sets that we bought or found back in the day down at FYE. You know, when they actually had a good deal, you know, and so on.
Or wasn't you'd have to put down a house payment for like one Blu-ray.
Yeah, like when I bought that Waterworld one for like $50 there, and ironically that was the cheapest place. It was actually more expensive online.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, there was like, hey, you want to get, like, it was X-Men, like I just saw it. I wasn't going to buy it. It was like X-Men Origins Wolverine 2-disc special edition for like $43. I'm like, get fucked.
I thought that was Borders, because I remember that was like the reference we always used, be like, yeah, you want to know why Borders closed? Oh, I can tell you why Borders closed. Here's a glaring example.
You'd have to wait for shit to go to the discount or get returned or be used if you went to FYE. But I remember there was one that was actually kind of cheap. It was a Scorsese box set, and it came with Who's Knocking at My Door, Mean Streets, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, After Hours, and Goodfellas. And it was a couple of those are like obvious ones, but then there's a couple like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore and After Hours were like random ones that I didn't even know about. So I got that set. And like, even that, like, you just kind of watch some of it because you just think, when you think Robert Rodriguez, you think, you think like, not Robert Rodriguez.
Scorsese. I was like, where's he going with this one?
When you think Scorsese, you think like big, like, you know, like run and gun shooting, or like, you know, like gangster shit, or not even gangster shit, just like really tense kind of shit. But then like this was just like about a lady whose husband died. She became a single mom. She had to figure out how to raise her kid who had some kind of like, who was on the spectrum, and she wanted to be a singer, and she had to sacrifice her dreams at some point, but she still wants to go and follow her dreams, and she's starting off from scratch, you know. So it's just one of these kind of movies where it's like, whoa, yeah, it's good. It's a good movie, but it's kind of like one of those movies like someone's naming off all their favorite like Scorsese films, like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. Like,
it's like that guy cheering in the audience for like looking for that one real like B hit from like the third album in like the 70s.
Yeah. It's just like someone's naming like Chili Peppers albums, they're like
Freaky Style.
One Hot Minute.
Yeah, one of those kind of things. Is that the movie that's got Harvey Keitel in it, and there's like that sex scene with him in it, of course, because why would there not be? And they're playing like Doors, Light My Fire, and it literally plays like the long like 11-minute version, and you're like, Jesus, when's this gonna end?
That's Who's Knocking at My Door. It's all black and white.
Yeah.
And that's that's that one. This one's PG, and this one's like just a lady just basically starting off from scratch, and it's kind of like a dramatic comedy. But yeah, no, that one, I feel like, yeah, I think that's where maybe that was the first time Harvey Keitel showed his dick, and he just never put it away, you know?
No, he's like, I don't care how old I get, you're going to get Harvey Keitel naked in a movie. But even speaking of other stuff too, something I've been going kind of back in time with is it's like that kind of thing. Once something's been kind of over 10 years, and it's been a while since you've either watched, read, or whatever. But I got kind of back into reading the Ultimate books, those Avengers ones that I borrowed from you way back in the day, from the 2000s. And I read both the omnibus of 1 and 2 just recently, just kind of going through all like almost 1,000 pages of all that right there. And something about that one is like, it definitely takes you back for one, but like it is one of those ones like I almost felt like I liked it even more kind of going back to it, because I think there's some of those things that, you know, there's a couple of those handful of like pop culture references that I remember at the time kind of bothered me, because that was always that thing that would bother me in some like Marvel books, is they'd have some kind of goofy pop culture reference. In hindsight, you kind of go back and you're like, okay, it's just a handful of moments, but they're almost like, it's weird. Like I will say pop culture references in the future, when you come back to it, they almost aren't as bad because now it's kind of like it's like a little time travel trip real quickly. Like, oh, I know where I was. You know where you were in 2003.
Watching Stuart Little, yeah. Seeing Freddie Prinze Jr.
Where Nick Fury's like, you're fucking Stuart Little, bitch. And you're like, yeah, that fucking rat. That's who you fucking are. Because I think he's calling like Ant-Man that or something like that. Or
he's calling that to the Hulk. They're talking.
Oh, yeah, Bruce. But yeah. You know, because if there's somebody out there, you should call Stuart Little. Yeah. Call Bruce Banner that. See what he's going to do to you next.
But to be fair, though, that's the point where Hulk's in remission, and the Hulk only happened one time. And that's something that hearing everybody talk shit on him, make fun of him, and talk about what a fucking loser he is, and then find out that like his ex-girlfriend, who's just been a real fucking bitch to him, and is also in like Avengers PR or whatever, is on a date with Freddie Prinze Jr. or talking to Freddie Prinze Jr. about like playing him in a movie, and she's like, "Oh my god, Freddie Prinze Jr. is so hot! I can't wait." And he's just like, he fucking. Cause I'll say this about those, like I like those. Thinking back on number 3, I think that's where shit's weird. Even shit's kind of weird in some aspects in 1 and 2 with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. Just kind of like we got to relate to the kids. How are we gonna relate to the kids? Make the brother and sister fuck. Wait, what? Yeah. Did you know brother and sister fucking? It's the new Pepsi. Yeah, like, oh, is it? I'm guessing. I don't know.
Well, the funny thing is because you could totally tell, like, that's the radical difference between the 2000s and, like, the 2010s, the 20s, is the fact that, like, this is the edgy attitude era still. This is still where it's like, yeah, of course the fucking brother and sister fuck. Like, that's fucked up, right? Yeah. Fuck it is. You know what I mean? Where nowadays it's like the things like that would be so like taboo, like, well, you don't say that, but this is the era where like, no, you fucking say. I mean, there's even jokes in that book that like make me laugh so hard because it's like, oh man, there's no way Tony Stark could get away saying those nowadays.
I wish I actually still had those, because there's this point in my comic collection where I was getting ready to move, and there were comics that I liked, and there's comics I would not sell. There are comics that I liked, but I would sell in order to make some spare cash. And I sold all my Ultimates, like Ultimate Avengers Ultimates, to like for some pocket change. Like, you know what? For the $200 that got me, I should have held on to it, just because like those were, I can get them. I know I can get them. They're not hard to find, but at the same time, I just kind of $200 doesn't get you too far. And those books they are kind of a weird little time capsule, because it's interesting because when you read them, there is this thing where it's not my preferred version of the Avengers, but it's a very interesting version, because there's when it's happening, you don't always realize it, especially at the time. I just thought they were trying to be edgy, but I realized, oh no, they're trying to take like a post 9/11 approach to all this, and they're not saying that's all good. They're not saying like the Avengers themselves. They're like, they're kind of like, because I think there was that point where, I don't want us to veer too politically here, but I feel like there's a point where back in 2000s, you could kind of have like someone who is very liberal and very conservative sit in a room and not agree, but still, like, a lot of movies back then were about the liberal and the conservative coming together.
They can work together. Yeah.
Where now it's not as much of that. Now it's kind of like all one side or one or the other, because everything's just so divided. So I think that it's interesting, because now you cannot really, and I understand
which that's what Civil War is.
yeah.
Because I started that book up afterwards in my thing, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the one where it's literally black and white. There is no gray.
Well, that one, Civil War, for that one, are you talking Marvel Civil War, right?
Yeah, like the original Civil War book.
So that one, I've only read parts of it, because it was like, I didn't read the whole thing. I read like the comics I was reading at the time and how it overlapped in those comics. And in that, because that was a metaphor for the Patriot Act. So that one, it was a little more black and white. But before leading up to that, I feel like there's things in movies where like, well, we can still have a discussion about it, where now it's a little bit more of like, I mean, I'm way more left leaning, but at the exact same time, I feel like now it's more of like, you can't have a Captain America come out and say some things like, here's the Trump stand-in. We can't have America. We can't have Captain America come in. Well, let's hear what he has to say. So it's kind of interesting going back to something like in 2001, 2002, and having like a angry, kind of bitter Captain America with kind of like Bush era politics, but he still has enough other Captain America qualities about him, so you feel kind of conflicted about him. You know what I mean? He's not the Steve Rogers from 616 who is like, all Boy Scout, all perfect, but he's also like, but he still has enough good qualities. He just has some of the more rougher edges that would be in someone who was alive in the 40s.
Yeah, well, no, it's like one of those ones I really like. I actually like the Captain America a lot in that book, because it's like that one where he's just this grizzled, like it's almost because he's this grizzled like 22-year-old at the end of the day, but he's got like that kind of thing. And there's that part when like Hank Pym gets in a fucking argument with the Wasp. He's like, well, fuck you, bitch, trying to think that everybody's better than me. Fuck all those other scientists. You know what? Fucking Wasp spray. Like yeah, he's just been keeping that Wasp spray there for a fucking reason. And he's like, yeah, fuck you stupid whore. And then when Captain America comes and he finds him because he like runs away, and there's a panel. It's so fucking funny because it's just a giant splash page of fucking Captain America Steve Rogers' face just leaning up behind Hank Pym, be like, yo, bitch, we're gonna step fucking outside right now. You're gonna get some America in your face. You don't touch a fucking lady. Turn big, motherfucker. I want to punch you in that giant cock of yours.
Gonna knock those balls like it's a speed sack.
And I just love the rough and tumble kind of like Captain America that's in this one here, where he isn't I feel like the Boy Scout thing works better for like someone like Superman, but I do think that, like, let's be honest, if you were hanging out with a bunch of grizzled like World War II guys, you are going to be a little bit rough. You're not going to be as Boy Scouty like in the military and so on like that. So I think that I think that version's fun where he is, but he's still kind of, even though he's rough and tumble, he still is very freedom fighting, like in a good way. You know what I mean? He's that kind of thing.
He still has values. That's the thing. And I think that's the thing about what was interesting, because at the time I was kind of like, I liked it, but I was a little bit more like, I feel like you're making people assholes just to be edgy for the sake of edginess. And in some cases, I think that is the case with like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Well, I'll say those two characters are the one I'm like, why the hell would Nick Fury even want these to be on the team? They seem like such like shitty people to have with them. There's like no redeeming qualities about them. There's like, oh, jeez, we have to be here with the Avengers. Like, how lame is that? Well, maybe I can fuck that robot over there. Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be something to do on a Tuesday.
And that becomes like a big like plot point later in number 3, because she makes a joke about fucking the robot, and she just like put an enchantment on it, and Ultron went all incel, went all like, if I can't have her, nobody can, and like just destroy the Avengers from the inside. And over like he assassinated Scarlet Witch out of a crime of passion, and then Silver, Quicksilver is like, no, my sister who I want to fuck died. Oh, Dad, we got to end the world now. So it's like, no. So, but regardless of that, I do think the first 2 volumes are pretty good. And I think it is interesting because I want to keep it to Avengers, but it's kind of like something that, because I was listening to, I'll be honest, I didn't have the book, but I've heard like experts of Tarantino's book on film cinema, and it makes a lot of sense. Film cinema on film theory and film.
Right about the cinema yeah, that one.
Yeah,
that's a book. I kid you not. If you get a chance, get that book. It's fucking amazing.
Because from what I've noticed, what he points out, what he finds most interesting are characters where you feel kind of weird about liking them, where he goes into details about Dirty Harry, like, because if you look at the times, those were really, even for those times, those were unpopular politics, and those politics didn't reach out to young people. But at the same time, we see what Harry does here, and here, and that endears us to him. And then he points out these other movies he pointed out where we see them in this light over here, but there's this other thing we know would bother us, but we're still kind of interested about that, so we just kind of go with them. And that's the foreground for every one of his characters. So that all makes a lot more sense now. And then after hearing that and then thinking back on the Ultimates, that kind of makes a lot of sense, because every one of the Ultimates has, like, because you could say like, okay, yeah, Iron Man drinks, he's an alcoholic. See, like if you just put out like the MCU
Just so
versions,
funny.
like,
What's Iron Man's politics? Well, he's an alcoholic.
not politics. I just meant problems, not politics.
It just sounded like that's where I thought you were going with that. Then you're like, oh, he drinks.
not politics. I just meant.
Hey, Tony, who are you voting for? Well, I vote for the guy who drinks the most.
That's my kind of guy. No, but I mean, you could look at anybody and say, okay, yeah, this character's flawed, X, Y, or Z. You can look at the MCU and look at this character, that character is flawed. But if you look at, say, the Ultimates, you can kind of see like, oh, they're more than flawed. Like Tony is barely functioning, and he is like dying of cancer, and Captain America is a man at a time. He's grizzled. He doesn't feel like he fits in anywhere. Ant-Man and Wasp are in a very toxic relationship. Because there's a whole like panel back in like the 70s where he's like, "Get out of the way, woman!" and he like smacks her. Like that was like one panel, and it was also I think they said that like it was meant to be like. I've heard mixed things. Like it was kind of like he didn't realize she was there, and he was turning around and he smacked her.
He's just like, there's a damn fly flying around here.
Yeah, or it was something else. Like it was just like he did it one time, and it was just this big, huge regret he had. And then like Mark Miller just ran with it and made it like, oh, he does that all the fucking time. Like that's
he keeps the wasp spray right next to his like computer.
Yeah, so it's like,
well, what do you think that was? I gotta say, Janet's probably walking around the whole time, and she goes, "Why does he just have a giant can of Raid, wasp spray specific, right next to his fucking workstation?" Like, it's not ant spray. It's not if a bunch of ants get out of hand or an experiment or something like that. He's just going to genocide them. No. It's specifically Black Flag for wasps.
Makes hard eye contact all the time. I think the only character that actually is, and even like Bruce Banner, he's somebody who he's someone who's the world is shit on. In this version of Bruce Banner, he's not even like when he's Bruce, he's not even like a good looking nerdy guy. He is a really like dorky, schlubby little dork. And
who just murdered 800 people the first time he turned into the Hulk.
Yeah, I think the only person that's actually all good, well, maybe not even all good, but like the one person that's a little more like the least flawed person is probably Thor, and he's like a traveling hippie that doesn't have a job, Yeah.
So, but even Thor kind of like he's kind of like the guy that like nobody's too sure.
I haven't read it in years.
Because the only thing is he's kind of unreliable. That's the biggest thing about Thor is that he's like one of those ones because I think that's his biggest thing because he's almost too into like he's almost like he's like, yo man, I'm Thor, I'm a pacifist, we're fucking saving the whales, man, like fuck the government, all this stuff, like fuck, I'm just waiting for that next welfare check to get in, and Nick Fury's like, what, you want to come save the world? I don't know, man. Like, fuck, maybe if the aliens come, shit, I don't know, maybe the aliens are gonna be cool, bro. Like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. Like, she's like, Nick's like, just like, Jesus, you're just trying to fucking hire some people, and everybody's got a fucking, issue. Like, at least fucking Black Widow shows up.
That's another thing. Black Widow,
not knowing what she's going to turn into later down the line.
That's another thing. They bait and switch it. Black Widow's just a villain. She doesn't have a turnaround. She's a villain, and she dies a villain. And then even like Clint Barton, he's a Black Ops. He's a Black Ops assassin. He's not somebody who was like a criminal who got taken in by the Avengers, and he was always a Black Ops assassin. So it's like, and the idea of like, okay, we're going to take this team and try to market them and try and like, so, and also create this whole like media conglomerate around them to help pay for everything so we can fund like our more or less war on terror and all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that's a very interesting concept. And I think that at the time it just seemed like, it's just being edgy and cynical for the sake of being edgy and cynical. But at the time it's like, no, this was the politics of the time. And I think that really stands out now. And I only read those books like twice back when I had them, and it was like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But like, yeah, I think that's very interesting. I also think it's interesting. I think when I wasn't a fan of this, but I still think it's just kind of funny. Like, I want to say when after Ant-Man is kicked out and he joins the Defenders, and it's just like this version of Luke Cage, I think it was the Defenders, this version of Luke Cage.
It's not Luke Cage. I thought it was Luke Cage. It's the other dude. It's or maybe it is Luke Cage. I thought it was the other.
Is he called Power Man? Because Power Man is like Luke Cage's like other superhero name.
Oh no, I guess Power Man is in there too. I thought for some reason I didn't think it was, but yeah, like the Defenders are all kind of like they make them out like they're all just like almost like Kick-Ass, like the regular Joes, just showing. It was
like
up.
Valkyrie. It was Luke Cage, or at least somebody going by Power Man. I think. I think son of the like I think son of the Satan, and then like someone else, and like did I say Valkyrie?
You did, yeah, because Valkyrie's in there because she's
Valkyrie's
just like,
a
hey,
cosplay.
Literally the cosplay whore that kind of shows up.
And she, and like they can't do anything. And like he's like, "What am I doing here?" And like I like the part where I just like the bit like where he's joined this team. He's like, "Oh my God, you're a real Avenger. That's so amazing." "Yep, I'm a real Avenger. Yep. Can you do me one little favor?" "What's that?" "Can you dress as Captain America?" I'm like, fuck.
She's like the one guy of anybody. I'll dress as Thor. I'll dress as Iron Man. I'll dress as fucking Quicksilver, and we'll do some weird fucking kinky shit. But don't you fucking make me dress as Steve Rogers. Anybody but that guy.
Yeah, I just remember like something else, like when Hulk goes on his massacre, on his rampage of like, because he's like, "You were going to suck Freddie Prinze Jr.'s dick," and like gets like all fucking, incel and goes after Betty. Just the idea of like, okay, we're gonna fit this into a movie. Freddie Prinze Jr., you're playing yourself, and you're running away from the Hulk because he's mad that you're stealing his girlfriend. He might fuck you at a blind range. We don't know. He might use you as a condom. We're not sure. Okay.
Yeah.
like that right there. Like there's something about
there's a great panel too where somebody says like, "Hey Hulk, don't stop being a sissy," and go, "Hulk no sissy, Hulk straight."
Yeah. I remember that part.
It's just like
his battle cry.
Yeah, there's just some funny stuff in there and whatnot.
There's no way you could have that in a panel now.
No, well, there was another line too where like Tony Stark was all like, he's like, "I was more scared than that time I was in a sauna with Elton John." I laughed so hard at that. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Well, that's the funny thing is because you look at that, and the Ultimates, like, not only does it has '90s attitude, like, still going on, because that's the thing people kind of forget about is the 2000s still had the attitude train didn't stop. It kept going, and it kept going. That's why like we get towards like the end of the very 2000s, and you start to get that's like almost the most hardcore era. I mean, that maybe not of all time, but like for movies, because that's when like remember like when Rambo 4 came out, and it was like after that it was like, dude, you're just guaranteed to have good violence in like every movie. Like every movie just delivered. Like, you know what I mean? Like you got in a sense NC-17 violence from back in the day, but for some reason this fit all under an rated R banner.
I feel like it was weird because I feel like it's also at the beginning of like, how do I put it? Because it still kind of links to the Ultimates to a certain extent, but like, because the Ultimates came out like in I think 2001, 2002, something like that, and that book didn't come out like monthly, like Ultimate Spider-Man or Ultimate Fantastic Four. That one came out like these. We only have a couple of them, and they come out every few years or something like that.
Yeah, because I think they came out as graphic novels, if I'm not mistaken.
Something like that, yeah. So, because those ones are more continual mini series, like they do 12 at a time or something like that. And what was the word I was looking for? Yeah. So I feel like there's this point where like, because you compare 2001, just not even 2010, but to 2008, I feel like there's such a jump there in movies and culture and everything right there. Like, I mean, you could still have some of like the post 9/11 war on terror kind of elements there, but just even in a lot of aspects of just kind of like, I'm thinking back because like there was a point where I feel like we had a lot of like more like award baity drama stuff coming in around 2000, like through the 90s, through 2000s, but then as like we get like to later, like 2007, 2008, big like IPs like Pirates of the Caribbean, Batman, Marvel, whatever, were starting to get kind of bigger, and then those were like near the end, those kind of started to take over, and as those were taken over, things started to get kind of more sanitized again. I mean, you could still get like an R-rated superhero movie here and there, but I feel like near the end of 2000s is where things started to get a little softer and shinier again, you know?
Well, because I was in that Ultimates mode, so once you're kind of
like Dark Knight might not be the best example, but you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, Dark Knight probably is. That might actually be the best example if you think about it, because that one's dark, edgy. It still has the ground in reality of the 2000s. PG-13. It's PG-13, but it almost plays like it's rated R. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's just toned down just enough, but it's not like it's, soft, because it's like, I went back and while I was reading the Ultimates, I watched Avengers 1 and 2. And it's funny because when you watch Avengers 1, if you disregard Tony Stark, there's not that much. Well, it's still quite serious. It's funny. At the time, I would have been like, it's too jokey and everything, man. And you watch back and you go, if you disclude like Tony Stark's line, just because he just says jokes like every 2 lines anyways, that's just his character. So I'll that's fine there. There's probably less than 10 jokes among the other characters in the entire movie, and there's a couple of them that are like, a lot of times most of them, they're not like too bad yet. It's like, we haven't got to like where they start becoming like really jokey. It's funny. It's like, it's still generally pretty serious and kind of, because I probably hadn't watched that in 10 years. It's probably since it came out on DVD or whatever, like when that was probably the last time I watched it. So going back and watching that one, and then even just I watched Age of Ultron as well again too. And you could kind of tell that one, there is a little bit more jokes in there, but that one's also, I will say, the jokes, at least none of them ever feel like fourth wall breaking as much. It's like they might be a little bit more than you probably need, but they never like take you like out of the movie for the most part. Like those 2 movies are still pretty serious. And the fact that also that, like, when you do watch kind of Avengers 1, it's like the Ultimates, like taking that graphic novel, but making it kind of streamlining it, of course, but it still has like a lot of the stuff. And you get the Loki villain stuff, because one thing that's kind of cool in the Ultimates, I want to bring this up earlier, is there's a part in there I kind of totally forgot about, but like the part where they go like, oh dude, Thor is just a joke guy. He just stole this fucking technology with his like hippie fucking skills, and if he wears this belt, that's how he gets his powers. He's not even, he's just a delusional maniac. And I like it because I couldn't remember. I'm like, is he the delusional thing? Are they going to ground this in reality, or is he actually like Thor? I'm like, I couldn't remember. And as I kept reading, it's like, I like how later on it turns out it's like, oh, no, he is Thor, and nobody believed him. But it still keeps that kind of in there and whatnot, which I thought was cool, because everybody's like, oh, no, just Loki. And it's like, no, Loki is that ultimate fucking trickster who's starting World War III. He's getting the Middle East all riled up.
Yeah. Like, that was like the ultimate joke. But that I remember that. Yeah, there's that thing where even you as the audience, you're not sure if he's crazy or not. So that was starting to come into play. But like, yeah, no, I remember that one being I remember it pulling a lot of inspiration from the Ultimates comics, but I remember it wasn't too like, it was a lot more softer, and it didn't have a lot of the heart. Well, it didn't have the sibling fucking, didn't have that. And it also kind of like,
though I will say, when I was watching Age of Ultron, they do have a lot more of like, it's not as intense, but they have like their hand holding and things like that. Like, there's elements of it there that you wouldn't notice, except for I just read the Ultimates.
Yeah, I think it's more meant to be just like, because they're brother and sister, they're inseparable, that kind of thing. And yeah. But still, even there's that whole like brother and sister, they're inseparable. Yeah, brother and sister, come the fuck on,
Yeah, well, they're inseparable in a different way.
yeah. But
keep it in the family, like.
Yeah. What happens when your magnetic dad isn't around? Like slap some smarts into that boy,
Yeah, he's like, this is why I did that. That's why at Age of Ultron, he's like, Magneto's like, I just disowned those kids. Fuck that. God forbid in the newspaper, it's not only you're living on Asteroid M and everybody's scared of you, but guess what? Your kids are fucking each other. Like, nope, not having that in the papers. No, I don't want to be shopping at the supermarket, like what Magneto does on a Sunday, and see a tabloid, fucking National Enquirer right there.
Full costume, cape, just.
Got his fucking like little plastic like fucking shopping bag cart.
It's the X-Men like evolution version, so you just see like these dark eyes from like the slits of the helmet, so it's extra creepy. And he just sees like he looks and sees like National Enquirer, just like turns around, faces it the other way. How's today going? Good? Good. All right.
Yeah.
Don't come to work tomorrow. I'm going to destroy this place. All right. Have a good one.
Yeah. I always liked you.
Yeah.
If you were a mutant, you could be in the Brotherhood, but you're not. Too bad you were Norma Homo sapien.
Yeah. Anyway, I brought these coupons.
Magneto don't pay full price.
Yeah. We know, yeah.
What? You don't got a Holocaust survivor discount here?
Yeah.
I see you got the veterans discount, but you don't got a Holocaust survivor discount. I can show you my number.
We'll give it to you. It's fine. Just give it to him. You don't need to call the manager. Don't call Phil the manager. Just fucking give it to him. Remember to call in sick tomorrow. You have any sick days left? I hope you do.
Just I'm not showing up no matter what.
No, but like I think that I haven't watched Avengers 1 in a while, but I remember I watched it probably last year or something. But no, I remember it, but I haven't really compared it to the Ultimates in a while too. Yeah. I think right now they're doing have you heard about the relaunch of Ultimate? What they're doing with that?
Oh, of like the Ultimate series. I saw it popped up in my Comixology that there's a handful of I saw new kind of Ultimates books that are coming out, but I was like, maybe check. Sometimes it's one of those ones like, hate to start saying, you get some of those new ones like, here's 15 different issues you need to read to keep up. Like, so I'll backpedal a little bit here.
They, I think the ones they have, they have Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, the Ultimates, and Ultimate X-Men, and I think maybe Ultimate Fantastic Four. I'm not sure. But
we're going to try it again, guys.
Well, no, the new concepts, actually, I really like the new concepts because I actually read a little bit of, I didn't read the book because I haven't got it yet, but Ultimate Spider-Man sounds really good because the concept for that is, okay, at the end of Ultimatum and all that, Reed Richards becomes evil and becomes the Maker. So Ultimate Reed Richards becomes a villain and just becomes a villain for the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
And just becomes this guy who tries to take over realities, alter shit, change things around, whatever. He goes to another universe and he arranges things in such a way where a lot of characters never became superheroes, but some of them got it later in life or things happened differently. So Peter Parker went his whole life without being Spider-Man up until his early to mid 30s, and he's married to Mary Jane. He's a reporter. He has 2 kids with Mary Jane, and then a young version of Iron Man comes in and says, "Hey man, so you were meant to get bit by a spider, but due to this fucker named the Maker, he switched things up, and now here's the spider that would have bit you, and here's a suit. So, you don't have to, but, so it's kind of
a guy come up to be like, hey, Ryan, you were meant to be a superhero. So here's this thing. I got this spider here. Can you just put this on your arm and just let me have him bite you?
Well, it's said through a hologram, so it's a little more believable. It's not just some kid showing up to his doorstep and handing him a cardboard box.
It's fucking swirling a fucking martini, be like, hey, but a bunch of other guys standing around watching, fucking bets down.
You believe that shit?
Just like this is what he's like. Is that what Tony Stark? Yeah, this is what he fucking does on his spare time. He just goes out and he fucking has has his own kind of like his own fucking version of Punk'd.
It's either this or paying for hobo fights, and he can only take so many lawsuits after a while. So this is the next best thing.
He's like, those hobos started getting really good lawyers.
Fucking Matt Murdock. Anyway, no. So a lot of superheroes never became superheroes. So basically, some kind of Iron Man from the future, whatever. And there was some big superhero thing that wiped some big terrorist attack that took a lot of people out. Uncle Ben is still alive, but right around the time he's becoming a superhero, Harry Osborn took some of his father's tech, and he has become the Green Goblin. But Green Goblin is working as a superhero too, so they're kind of working together. for like, I'm sure that's going to change, but they're working together for the first few issues or whatever. I haven't, this is just like a summary I've heard. Like, that sounds like a really cool concept. Like Peter in his 30s, just getting it, just learning, and kind of going forward from there, you know?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I did kind of have the notion of like, after you kind of read the Ultimates, I'm like, oh, I could go through Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate X-Men again, just for one, like a little bit of a nostalgic sake, and then two, it'd be kind of fun just to kind of go back through them.
Ultimate Spider-Man was awesome.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man was great.
The only
Ultimate
problem
X-Men,
is it took
I remember
place
that
in
one
the
being kind of like, I had like mixed feelings. I probably would like it more nowadays because I feel like a lot of those books I read, let's be honest, were in like the judgmental age of like 17 to like 23, when you're like, you know, serious filmmaker mode, like, you know, when you're in that period. So I feel like when you get something a little bit older, you can kind of look at things and kind of go, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're doing something different. That's fine. That's cool. You know, like, I feel like that, where like, at the time you're like, that's not how like fucking Jubilee would act, or you know what I mean? You get like that kind of defensive. I remember, that was the same thing I remember, like, you know, when you get, there was a buddy that I had that, well, he was on one of our podcasts once, but I remember like when Civil War came out, and I remember he got so angry at that movie because it was not like the comic book at all and whatnot. And I just kind of like, it was Caden. He was a real cool guy, Caden.
Remember he was, and it happened just like the.
But he was just mad. I just remember like he got so mad about that. You know what I mean? It's always kind of that thing where it's funny because when I was reading Civil War, it's like, you know, I'll say this. I think the Civil War movie actually is kind of a little bit more dialed in than the Civil War book. Not saying the book has interesting moments, but the book's kind of like very. I don't know. It's like very like black and white. Though there's a part that made me laugh so hard because they get like the Punisher at one point on Captain America's team, and I remember that was one thing that a lot of people were pissed off. Like, fucking Punisher's not in Civil War. Oh, fuck this shit, you know, because people just, you know, they're. Once you're in for the Punisher lifestyle, like you know, you don't break code. But there's a part where like Captain America's like, okay, we got our new Secret Avengers hidden area and stuff like that. Somebody brought this fucking Punisher guy in. Fuck Vietnam. That ain't a real war. World War II all the way. Hoorah! Like, it's like, okay, Captain, we get it. He's like, yeah. And then they're like, there's these two guys that come in. I can't remember what villains they were because like on Tony Stark's team, he started hiring villains or whatever. Which, you know, that's not going to work out. Let's just be honest. That's just asking for trouble. But there's these two guys like, hey, you know, so we came in for like the job offering. You know, we heard that you guys need a little bit of extra help. There were just like two like super like D-list villain guys and whatnot. And then Punisher, it just turns and it shows like a panel of him going like, oh, with like red behind him and stuff like that. And then he just blows them away with two machine guns. Like, no fucking questions asked. He just was like, and Captain America's like, what the fuck? Throws him up against the wall like, you fucking Vietnam vet, bitch. He starts punching him and shit. He's like, fight back. He's like, I won't hit you, Captain America. You're a goddamn fucking hero. Those guys are murderers and rapists. They deserve what they fucking got.
I like to think that like he didn't even know they were villains. He just had Charlie flashbacks out of nowhere.
Well, it just because it was a comic, it just had that hard cut, which made it hilarious, and it had the red background. And they're just like in a fucking round table meeting, like they're in a fucking job interview, and the Punisher just like pulls out two fucking machine guns, and the Captain America's like, get him out of here, take away his fucking guns, melt that shit down.
I know at some point during Civil War, he's killed by Wolverine's dickhead son, like brutally, but then he's brought back to life and made into Frankencastle. And I'm not making that up.
For Frankencastle, literally, that sounds like when there's like a 9-year-old special ed kid who really likes the Punisher. He's like, I mean, really likes the fucking like Frankenstein movie. It's like his two favorite things. So he's like, I'm gonna fuse them together. So there's Dr. Frankencastle.
Like Chris Chan and Sonic Shoe, like that.
Yeah. Here's my OC.
Yeah, no, it's they did that, and I think that started the whole thing of Frank Castle being born, dying, brought back to life, turned into Ghost Rider, becoming Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Yeah,
Cosmic Ghost Rider was fun, but there's that thing where, what was I gonna say? Like, I think sometimes the movies, not every movie, especially not recently, but I think a lot of the movies took like the concept of a comic that really was just okay and made it into a good movie. Because I remember Civil War feeling kind of whatever, and like certain parts of it were really good, but just kind of like lingering because everyone has to get involved. You had to write against type for the characters in order to make the action happen. Where in the movie, I'm like, no, it makes sense. I see how this happened. I see why this happened, you know? And then you think on like, you see like those panels of like an army of superheroes just clashing. And you see the movie and it's just like 12 superheroes clashing. But like 12, shit, I never thought we'd get like 6. So, you know? So
yeah. So you get that. Well, it just feels like the movie's a little bit more streamlined. And even like, I'll say the Civil War, it's like the weirdest way that it starts off. It's like, there's a bunch of like these kids who are like, hey man, we're doing like a reality TV show.
Yeah,
like we got our
new
camera.
Warriors. The new Warriors.
Yeah, the new Warriors. That's what it is. They're like, we're going in, we're gonna fucking save the day. Fucking, you know. It's before, like, it makes it feel like it's almost like a YouTube thing, but it's before that. It's like, so it's just literally like something like, this is on fucking MTV2. You know?
It's funny.
Like,
somebody thinks because, like, one of the writers on one book was, like, from the town that they blew up in that whole, like, thing right there while trying to save the day. And he says, like, I think so-and-so's pissed off at me. Why? Well, he just destroyed my town, my hometown, in, like, the first issue of Civil War.
Yeah, it's just that's it. Like, you know what? We can't have these fucking kids out there. You know what I mean? Just jerking off and fucking putting it on the, you know, the fucking MTV2. You know, fucking beach party extravaganza here. So we gotta like sign up. Well, Spider-Man demask right here. You know what I mean? Which I always thought that part was just, like kind of weird too. It's just like, what? I kind of hate to start saying. I feel like Spider-Man be like, you know what, man? You guys do you. I'm just gonna slowly back out of here. Even though there's a panel in there I fucking love when like Joe Jonah Jameson's like, oh, he's demasking.
Well, even that part, like I actually gotta get going here soon, but that whole part with the Peter Parker's demask, that would have been cool if they didn't retcon it just like 2 months later. Because like 2 months later is where it was, because he was going through all the fallout of having to take off his mask and then having to do the thing of like, we got to restart all over again. And granted, No Way Home kind of did a version of that, but it wasn't as something as stupid as like the devil comes in like, ooh, well, Peter Parker, I got a deal for you. Like, okay, Mephisto, fucking, what is it? You know, like thing like, I can save Aunt May, but you gotta promise you're never gonna marry Mary Jane again. Ooh, like, fucking.
Did I get married Gwen Stacy then in this reality? Well, I didn't consider that, but this may be a possibility.
just like sinks into the shadows, just doing that shit that pops up behind him.
Being like the assless man and fucking cow and chicken.
That's what he is. No.
Or not the assless man, I mean the pantsless man.
The pantsless man. If he was just like the pantsless man doing that, like then it all would be forgiven. Like, shit, I haven't played it. I don't think I'm gonna, but he should be a playable character in that Warner Brothers like Versus or whatever it is.
yeah, they're missing out. They don't put that guy in there. But
like, he'd have to have a couple butt slam attacks. He'd have to. But anyway, no, but like the idea of like, the movie did it, and even in like No Way Home, there's some stuff that was kind of sloppy, but it was still kind of like, I felt like there was more gravity in that, because in there it just felt like it was like a status thing. They had to like status quo thing. They got to hit the reset button on, just here to sell some comics, and then 2 months back to where we were, where the movie felt a little bit more. Maybe it was more than 2 months, who knows? But the movie felt a little bit more like at least there's a lasting impact to it. You know what I mean? He's at least alone now. It is a true starting point. He actually had to make a sacrifice to be here. We're just like, oh, my 80-year-old aunt is gonna die. Oh, like, yeah, your 80-year-old aunt's gonna fucking die. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I felt even in the Civil War book, it just sort of feels like it's just there to be shocking, just to be shocking. Like it doesn't. It just doesn't feel like. I have a hard time even believing Peter Parker would truly do that. Like, you know what I mean? I know what they're trying to do. It's like, hey man, we're just gonna, it worked for Tony. Maybe it'll work for me. It's like, yeah, because Tony lives in a fucking tower.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's always been like this, where it's like, it's not going to work the same for you and whatnot, but, yeah, it's still interesting. I'm about like 3/4 of the way, I think, through that one or whatever. It's not, as I said, the Ultimates 1 and 2, And then I might pick up the third one. I have to go out and grab that one if I want. But I remember that one. It switches to Jeff Loeb, which sounds like that should be oddly like you'd be like, oh, that sounds like a good choice. But I remember that one just being kind of okay.
He was working through some shit. The artwork in Volume 3 is fantastic. The artwork's amazing, but the Jeff Loeb was really working through some shit around that time. Like it was that and Ultimatum. And Ultimatum is one of the worst books ever. So
yeah, I remember that's when just Daredevil's just beat and raped on the side of the road, and nobody knows how.
I'm not sure raped, but sure, we can go with that.
It's just he's just bloated mess, just like shoved in the gutter.
I'm just assuming how else he gets so bloated.
Yeah, well,
that's all.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Why is the back of his costume ripped out? Just saying. Just ass cheeks sitting up in the air. he didn't see it coming.
The man from Cow and Chicken was here clearly.
Yeah, no, I just remember that one had all like it just once again the kind of shocking stuff where I feel at least with like the Ultimate book, like one, I mean it's kind of its own thing. It's not like it's like okay, this isn't like Avengers Classic. That was like like in a sense like one of the best examples of like if you're gonna start a new series, you got the 2000s, you got the new millennium, so it's like a perfect like era to say, hey, let's do a new kind of run. We'll give a new kind of different version of it. I think that one kind of does it well for like a reboot kind of series that, doesn't affect, because at least Marvel did the smart thing where it doesn't affect like the other one. There still was the regular, series ran side by side, which I think is smart. I think that's how I've always thought of DC. I always kind of wish that like you can have your like a new series because you got to have a new one like every 10 years because you're always just going to have a new fan bases roll over. But you should do the thing like I feel like Action Comics and DC Comics, like those two should be the ones that are like that's the original run. Like whatever happens in those two books is what has happened since like the 30s.
If because kind of lucked out with time aligning for us to be able to record right now because we've been busy with everything going on over here. But if time permits, maybe we could check out Absolute Batman, which is basically the Ultimate unit, which is DC's new Ultimate Universe. They have Ultimate Batman, Ultimate Superman, Ultimate Wonder Woman, and they have Ultimate Green Lantern and Ultimate Flash coming out.
Oh, have those come out yet? Because I don't think I've stumbled across those yet.
I think they're about to come out. They're like, or one or two of them are about to come out. So, like Absolute Batman is he grew up like as a working class guy, and he's now a city planner / engineer. One woman she was raised in hell, and now she's escaping hell and out in the open world. Superman he actually lived on Krypton till he was like 13 or 14, and now he's on Earth. Their powers are a little different and whatnot, but and Scott Snyder is doing Absolute Batman. He's the writer on that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then I don't know the gimmick with Green Lantern or Flash, but because those ones come out a little later. But those are the hooks for the other ones. So I'd like to check those out. It's made to make them all start more as like more so underdogs what they already would have been, basically.
Yeah. That sounds kind of interesting. I mean, I'd be down for checking that out. Sometimes it's that point, like, there's only so much you can always keep up on. And sometimes I just kind of go, I'll just read some of these old books here and there, kind of go back in time a bit and whatnot. I mean, I think that's one thing that does make that Ultimate series kind of nice is, once again, there's not that much. I mean, like, you could spend an entire year if you wanted to read all of it, but, like, there's just those couple Ultimates books. Then there's the Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and then, like, there's, like, Ultimate, like, Daredevil and Elektra and, like, a couple other, like,
there's a couple
single book ones.
Ultimate Vision, Ultimate Elektra, Ultimate Daredevil. Ultimate Elektra and Daredevil kind of suck, but it's Daredevil never even gets in the red costume in that. He's in the stupid black training costume the whole time. And
I think they thought that book was going to go on farther. I think it was one of those ones like they did like 4 issues and like fuck it, just cut that off, but. God, the other thing is I even bought, I'll just end it with this right here, but I bought that because I hadn't seen this in a long time too, but just as I was in, there's like those Ultimates, like the animated movies they made like in 2006 and 8 or whatever. Those ones, because I haven't seen them since the last time we watched them, and literally, like, I could literally picture like when we watch fucking the Ultimates, like over at the house here on the Mitsubishi TV and everything, And for some reason, I clearly remember Captain America flipping off Nick Fury in that, and then I just realized my mind just created that this whole time.
It makes the movie better because those movies are very much like it's not DC, but yeah.
Yeah, I will say, like, in watching that, they're not. For some reason, I thought they were kind of. I remember them being like more. They
weren't horrible.
Okay.
They weren't bad.
No, they're not bad because at the same time, it's like I guess I'm only like at that time there's only like 2 DC ones out by that point. There's like the Superman Doomsday and of course fucking New Frontier, which that one is pretty high bar, but
it did feel a little bit more of like, we know the Avengers movie's coming out, so put this out there so people have an idea of what it is, or amp people up so it's more in the zeitgeist,
Yeah, I think that's definitely what that first one's kind of pumping up, and then the second one's almost pumping up Black Panther, but almost like way before Black Panther even starts to show up in the movies.
Yeah, and even the whole thing with like the second one number was better. The second one was better, but I just remember because it was very toothless for being what the comics were. You know what I mean? It felt kind of like just slightly tougher, like PG-13. Slightly, like it could have almost been like it was this close to a Saturday morning cartoon,
Well, it's even underneath the I've never seen this company before, but Lionsgate Kids is what the first one's underneath. I think what happened is they did the first one like that, and it's kind of just like a PG version of the Ultimates, and then that second one came out, and they're like, well, we got to kind of compare it, like DC, they're doing PG-13 stuff, so let's up it a little bit. And I felt like that's sort of what happened in the second one. The bummer is that like I felt like Marvel, those movies, because they only have like 5 or 6 of them at that time period, and they are all generally pretty good. Like the Hulk Planet's really good, or Planet Hulk one.
Planet Hulk and Doctor Strange are pretty good.
Yeah, Doctor Strange, and then it's just like they kind of just stopped and like, yeah, I guess that's it.
I never saw the Iron Man one. It'd be interesting to see that.
They have the trailer on it. It keeps playing every single time I turn on that Blu-ray for the Ultimates one, so I feel like I should go out and grab that. But because I don't think you can get those on Disney Plus, because I noticed that Ultimate one was only, and it's probably just because Lionsgate owns it, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna hold off on this here and just make them want to get. They're gonna want that Ultimates thing on their thing, but they're not gonna be able to get it.
I feel like it like just the mouse could hire, if he really wanted, the mouse could hire Hit Squad and it would just be there the next day. It would just be like he just like looks out. He just like looks like Goofy's in the corner of the room, just standing all stern with his arms on his back. Mickey just like gives him a nod. And Goofy's like, go, nods back, and just like he makes it happen. He makes it happen the next day.
That's it.
Like some people disappeared. Oh look, it's in the Disney library now. How about that?
Yeah, it's funny because that Blu-ray, literally, if you look at the Blu-ray, it's like the most like oldest Blu-ray. It looks like day one Blu-ray. Like I'm having a hard time finding other Blu-rays that I own that have that, like, it's clear, like this is like you got a PS3 the other day, and what you need to watch on it? You're gonna get some Avengers. That's what you're gonna get.
Congratulations, you got a PS3. Here's your Avengers.
Yeah, you bought your $600 PS3. Here's your Avengers movie to watch on it. We're grateful you got that 1080p. Yeah. But yeah, more fun comic stuff coming up and whatnot. But yeah, I'm having a good time going back in time with those. So it's just nostalgic. It's that thing that like once it's been over 10 years and everything like that, it's kind of fun just to deep dive back into those things. It's almost like they're fresh and brand new again. As I said, there's certain turns and twists in there that I kind of forgot what happened. So I was kind of like, well, shit, I got to read ahead and see what's going on here and like keep going. And no, I had a really good time with those Ultimates books. So I'm looking forward to more of that. Check out some of that there. But till then, you can always go to oldmanorange.com, find more podcasts, comic books, all our old videos, and so on like that. Ryan, you got anything else extra and bonus between now and whenever the next episode may be?
No, I got nothing. But yeah, I'll try to. Things be kind of busy for a little while. They're going to stay busy, but I'm going to try to come on more when I can. So yeah.
Yeah, well, till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.